We're all dealing with feeling. We're all coping with feeling. Looking inside your heart is the place that you should start. Then you can heal. Then you can be real. So open up your heart. It's time to start. Dealing with feeling. Coping with feeling. Open up your heart. It's time to start.
I can't hear you. Okay. Welcome to Dealing with Feelings and Feelings Friday. I have with me today me, Karen White Porter, author, and my husband, James Robert Porter, LMHC,
Hello.
health counselor. And we are working together to help the world become a more socially and emotionally together world and a more peaceful world. And we, in light of the unfortunate events in Buffalo, New York, I had to ask myself, what would have happened if that man had been taught social emotional learning when he was little or growing up, or even felt like he belonged in a community of people that supported him? Would he still have gone and done all of these terrible things? So I'd like to present the question, what role does social emotional learning take in our schools to prevent bullying, violence, and even further society tragedy? What do you think?
Well, I mean, you have an advantage because you probably looked it up recently, and I skimmed something that you showed me. But obviously, when people have no alternatives, very few alternatives seem even possible, and that's when people get lethal. So suicide ideation, homicide ideation, suicide planning, homicide planning, gathering the materials to carry out any planning. If you have the materials available, then you're more likely to do it, and you might wind up dying by suicide or committing homicide. And so there are many options that are as simple as having someone to talk to and knowing what you want to talk about and knowing how to talk about it. That's for the individual that might be at risk, for them to be able to share, explain, and actually perhaps ask for help that may be more complex than a teen or a young child could express, can save lives. I would say any, mental health clinician who's been working for more than 2 or 3 years has probably been involved in preventing a murder or a suicide.
And this is why I wrote an op-ed in the Gainesville Sun, because I was so perplexed at our governor, Ron DeSantis, for saying that he wants to prohibit social emotional learning in schools. And here we have, this mass shooting in Buffalo, New York. And in that same week, he's trying to have an open carry law where anybody in the state of Florida can carry a gun now. So we're increasing the availability with these things, but stopping the very thing that could be saving lives, which is teaching children how to get to that process of, number one, understanding their own problems and their own feelings inside their own heart. Then you can't understand other people until you understand your own heart. And then they could go out and become empathetic children. And then from there, maybe we might even get into compassion, forgiveness.
Yeah. I think we should become anger positive, rage positive, meaning every emotion is harmless. It's the actions that cause problems, or certain emotions, if chronic, can cause health problems in that person. Otherwise, a person should be able to go right up to a teacher at school and say, I feel rage. It won't stop. I felt like this all the way through lunch and into my sixth period, or, a kid should be able to feel like people are going to look at them, accept what they say, and then take action to help him or her or them.
Yes.
So, yes.
And frankly, I feel, is this an appropriate feeling? But I feel rage toward Governor DeSantis for outlawing social emotional learning in schools.
There's no such thing as an inappropriate emotion, but that would be what a person feels. I mean, there's no prescription either, but yeah, absolutely. Anybody. Yeah, the answer is yes. And in that context, it's the body pumping up to try to do something in this world, trying to create safety. And that could lead to a sense of frustration that could turn into full-blown rage if they see that their goals for the human, species are thwarted by people more powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't like to explore the feeling of rage because I never would want to hurt another human being. But does rage mean that you want to hurt somebody?
It doesn't have to. You could rage by screaming and stamping your feet. You can rage by cussing at a mirror or at a wall.
Okay, so then I do feel rage toward Ron DeSantis. Okay. That's going to be the title of this video.
Okay.
Because he deserves it. I mean, what is he
going to make a little book where your little school monsters say, I feel rage at Ron DeSantis? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. But, he's making it, he's developing a climate for more danger. And that is bad. I mean, we know based on the research that we were just quoting, and I'll put it in this video, that schools are safer. There's less bullying when they have programs in place that teach children how to be social emotional learning, which means, number one, get in touch with yourself. Number two, regulate yourself with your feelings so you can cope with your feelings. And then number three, reach out to other people and consider other people's feelings and points of view in a loving way and respectful way. But by helping each other, listening to each other, taking turns, using I statements. Is there anything wrong with telling somebody how you feel?
No, there's nothing wrong with telling people how you feel, as long as you know what it means and what it looks like to tell people how you feel. If I say, I hate you, that's probably people will understand that, but I think you could say, I feel hatred when you get in front of me at the lunch line. You know what I mean? So there was the question, what was the question? Is it okay to communicate emotions, or what did you say? Yeah, share feelings.
Yeah.
Talking about our feelings is very important. There are ways that are better for the conversation and ways that are worse for the conversation, but yeah, absolutely. There's no, I already said there's no emotion that is verboten.
Yeah, and I do feel rage toward Ron DeSantis for making guns more available, guns more accessible to use in public, and compassion scoffed at, consideration for other people scoffed at, and looked at as weak. It's almost like, I don't know what he's trying to do. He's trying to bully people is what he's trying to do. Because it's not safe to share your emotions if you're being bullied.
And it's possible that he'll fail legally speaking, going to court or something problem with the law itself, too vague, too specific. It could be used against, some of the laws like don't say gay. That's not necessarily specific to social emotional learning. But people, well, no, that's true. I really haven't looked at the SEL law.
Well, he includes, I don't know, in
No, that's right. I remember he kind of conflates SEL with CRT and all these things like that. Yeah. So,
together, and they're not. There's something very different. And the
mhm.
Southern Poverty Law Center, who's been in existence for how many, since the civil rights movement or even before then, and they have been combating racism for so long, and that they're the ones who have a lot of this wonderful curriculum, a lot of it for free videos, free books for children. And it's, if they have teachers telling kids to respect each other and support one another at an early age rather than ostracize one another and step all over people who they don't like.
Mhm.
Is that what he wants? Does he want children to be racist?
Well, there's no way to know what somebody wants. It's impossible to mind read, a person. You can't know what their motives are, but you can try to infer what their motives are, and maybe just as importantly, what are the consequences? What are the effects of their behavior? So that's what matters. And so, yes, people are probably going to get hurt in schools. People are probably going to get scared in schools. Some people are going to feel emboldened to be a little bit rougher and less sensitive to other people's needs, regardless if it has to do anything specifically with the laws we're talking about. And school is a very rough place. I used to refer to it as Lord of the Flies because they do not have enough staff to supervise children. So there's a lot going on that can't be handled by the staff, especially if they don't know about something. So it's important to empower kids with real skills that are going to allow them to create safety for themselves and each other. And it has to do with simple things like, how do I get an adult in place? How do I deal with an intense, motivating fear that is tempting me to do something wrong that I don't want to do? How do I control myself? How do I find options? What are some of the best options? What are the best, I hate the word tools, but what are the best things I can do if I don't have help?
This reminds me of this little Cuban boy that came to my class in Walter O. Crumbagel School in 1990. And he would not sit down, would not listen, would not follow the rules, would not pay attention, always laughing, rolling on the floor, doing things he shouldn't. I was about ready to pull my hair out. And then as a teacher, I was like putting him in the corner, doing everything I could to, you sit over here until you can calm down kind of thing, not really putting him in the corner, but trying to, because I didn't like to send people to the principal's office and all that. So finally, and he was throwing things and yada, yada, yada. Then I found out in a conference, because they spoke with the parent conference, that he had just come from Cuba in a refrigerator box.
Oh.
And he was put on a boat and had to stay in that refrigerator box for 2 weeks. Can you imagine? Just to have enough food, and he had to poop and pee in there and everything. And alone.
Yeah, I mean, just being alone for 12 hours for a very young child in their home is terrifying.
So I felt so bad. I made a big poster and I told all the kids to say something nice about him. And I gave him stickers and did all this positive reinforcement. And then they moved. But I don't know. I'm hoping that maybe that moment, but if we could I wish if I could go back in time in a time machine I would slow down a little bit and look at the child and look at positive things and try to encourage people to be part of a community. And when somebody's acting out, they might not be fitting into your paradigm of what you want in that classroom.
Mhm.
But why not look at to see what we can do to make them part of the community?
Yeah, absolutely. Was he necessarily troublesome? You said he was. I
Yeah,
mean,
he did
not
everything he could.
doing what you want. Yeah, yeah, it's cool.
He
Yeah.
was terrible.
And everybody says, "Oh, this is a cry for help," but they used to say that a lot. That's probably a simplistic way of saying it, but definitely there is a source behind everybody's behavior. I mean, we are biochemical, neurological things, and we do not have, we can look inside a computer, but we do not have the ability to know what circuitry in us is doing what. We just don't have that kind of visibility, and we can't cut into ourselves and fix ourselves. It's extremely mysterious. There's so much complexity to what's going on that we have to, okay, so what you do with that knowledge is that their experience and their DNA, I guess, but the neurology, the resulting neurology of a person is the reason. And you have to acknowledge that so that you cannot make the situation worse. If you just go after someone, label them something, and then punish them for that label, you're just going to create more haywire wiring in a person. It really doesn't help. It's not that punishment and reward systems don't help, but most people want to be doing better. Most people.
Everybody wants to be part of a group.
Everybody wants to be part of a group. Everybody craves it, even if they can't put it into words. And everybody wants to behave in a way that works for them and the others around them. But there are parts of us that are made for special occasions, like forest fires and a tiger running after us, and all these things that say, forget all the rules. It's every person for themselves, and I'm going to act crazy until I'm in a safe place. And so that's what's going on inside people who are misbehaving. Now, some of it is like very hard to treat, but it's just giving the people the understanding that they're just as nutty as you, that everybody loses control, and that there's a way to let a person burn that out, calm it down, and then try to figure some of the unmet needs of this person. And you can actually affect a tremendous behavior change and create a person who's an asset to your class.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Learn some very sophisticated skills very young in situations like that. You know?
So it's all about listening.
Empathy is huge. I mean, if somebody's pointing a gun at you and you don't have a gun, you might want to use some empathy. But if somebody's pointing a gun at you and you have a gun, yeah, okay, it's okay to shoot them. But what I'm saying is almost every situation is not like that. And what do people trained to de-escalate do? A lot of what we're talking about. And who gets, I forgot my
And we really don't know about these mass shooters. What would have happened if they were reading books about using eye care language and social emotional learning like we're working on. Because it'd be really hard to find out, have two people and one is a mass shooter and one is not, and one got the curriculum and another one didn't.
Yeah.
But we do know that guy that killed all those people in Buffalo was in high school just like a year ago and was expelled for being violent, and they wouldn't let him graduate, or some kind of crazy thing happened at school that was a humongous alarm bell. And what did our society do? Nothing. We did
So
not.
another thing about behavior in children is, and all humans, is whatever is normalized, whatever is perceived as socially normal, affects our behavior tremendously. That's just another thing about us. Our brain is made to determine social norms and try to live by them, and even when nobody's looking. So let's say the norm is I'm strong and silent because I'm a male. Everybody's explained to me not to be a whiny little baby about things, and that your feelings don't matter. It's just math that matters. Well, then what are you going to do when you're getting more embroiled in painful emotions? You're going to not do the right thing. And so you could become a dangerous person.
And you shoot the math teacher.
You could shoot the math teacher. That's not a suggestion, everybody. But
Well, that happened in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas.
Well, I know that shootings happen. I'm saying that when you teach this stuff in a school, in every period, like you integrate it with math, you integrate it with social studies, you integrate it with every other reading, you integrate it with every other class, people just think, duh, I'm going to communicate. I'm going to be open about my feelings. I'm going to ask for things in the right way. I'm going to look for help in the right way from the right people. I'm going to pause. I'm going to do all these really smart things that prevent stupidity and death and low grades and all that kind of thing.
And teachers should get teacher training from square one, and not just one time. They need it all regularly, so that that they can check into their own mental health, because you have to do self-care before you can care for others.
Yeah. You can't, nobody can drink from an empty well. You know, if you let yourself get drained, you're not good to anybody.
And unless we start supporting and caring for teachers, we won't be able to.
That's another issue all on top of it, is that we'd love to create great programs, and people like to go in. And I remember when I was going to do my bullying training for teachers and students, and the fact was that their schedule and their resources couldn't accommodate doing any of the things that a good anti-bullying program would implement. That's why of course, there's some good money to be made in SEL, but also that's why the methods they're using is incorporating them into the normal text, because then it's just right there. It's woven together.
And that's why I'm hoping these books that we are working on will be in all the school libraries. So when children are learning to read, the first thing they're learning is how to use I care language, I statements, and tell about their feelings, know what they are and how to express them, what to do with them, and how to reach out to others with them. So that is our dream. And let's hope that we can make a difference. And everybody who's watching this can make a difference just by getting in touch with their own emotions. And then listening to other people when they have emotions, and figuring out ways to cope with them in ways that make everyone happy, a win-win situation.
You know, that reminds me of another kind of communication that kids sometimes get found doing. They might be drawing something or writing something that sounds very disturbing to everyone. But the first thing everyone should do when they see somebody, like, let's say they've got a picture of a kid with a knife in his hand, you know, that the kid drew, and I hate you, and somebody else lying on the ground, definitely just stop and look at it and think, this kid is expressing it in a way that anybody who passes by can see it. So therefore, I'm receiving a gift from this child that something is going on in their mind. It could be they just saw a movie last night about stuff like this, but it could be they're communicating something because they don't have the words, or they have not been taught that they can walk up to people who are helpful, or they have walked up to people who have not been helpful. So when you see, I get people telling me, you know, bringing pictures that kids drew that are just scary as heck, and all that stuff. And it does not mean that they are going to murder someone, but it does mean they need some attention. just in case they're going to do something violent, but also just because something is going on inside them, usually. Again, they might be a kid who is allowed to watch horror movies, and sometimes they're just, right, mimicking that for fun. But what you got to do is talk to them in a way that makes the child want to talk back and tell you what's going on. So that there's a book called How to Talk So Children Will Listen, How to Listen So Children Will Talk. You don't have to read the whole book, but just think about that. Try to talk.
I think what I would say to a kid is, oh, wow, that's interesting. How'd you come up with that?
Yeah, what's going on? Have you ever thought of doing that? Are you thinking of, it's okay to ask people. By the way, we don't need to put this in this video, but people are afraid to ask somebody if they're going to do something desperate because they think they'll suggest it to them. Like if you ask somebody, a lot of people believe that if you say, are you thinking of hurting yourself or killing yourself? That you're suddenly going to put the idea in their mind. No, everybody understands that suicide exists in this world. And so what usually happens is people are afraid to ask them outright what they're afraid the person is thinking of doing. So if you're afraid of something that might be in somebody's mind, ask them clearly and directly, are you thinking of killing yourself? Are you thinking of committing suicide? And if they are, they'll probably start crying and say yes.
Or if they, you can never be too safe. I've had kids write things in their journal about killing themselves. And I told the social workers, and they did a well check, and the kid was fine.
That's what you do. You get a professional to.
But there was that kid, he drew a picture of murdering people, and the parents didn't take him home.
Yes.
And then he ended up killing people.
Yes. Oh.
So everybody needs to be aware.
I should look it up, but I think 80%, 60 to 80% of school killings, I'll just say, could have been prevented if people
were, not by a policeman with a gun, but by a mental health counselor or a kind, loving teacher or parent who reached out to the child and found out what was wrong.
And if there's some thought of danger, like you said, you get a professional to do an assessment. It's not that hard for people who know how to do it.
They always say, oh, guns don't kill people, people kill people. But okay, if you're going to buy that, and that's the whole rationale for letting everyone have a gun, then you got to start looking at the people.
The people, right? If you believe people kill people, then you follow that through line directly to the person.
Well, this is a good place to end.
Yep.
With our video, that's going to be I Feel Rage when Ron DeSantis bans social emotional learning.
Are you going to actually possibly make a book with that title?
That's going to be the title of this video.
The video, okay. That'd be a fun book for parents. All right, take care.
Maybe we can do that. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
I'll see you in a few minutes, hon.
Okay.
Healing